weird fade outs every time. How you doing? Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected, and faked y'all out by being kind of on time. We'll call 12:02 more on time than usual, but how's it going? And we're live on Rockfin. What's up, Rockfinners? I see you. Hang out on Rockfin with us. It's kind of where the cool kids are at, Rockfin. We're also on Callin, which is a podcast. You can listen to the show as a podcast and also call in if you feel like it. Anyways, welcome. Really great way to support the show is at buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. And if you leave me a coffee and a note, I can catch it by the end of the show. Also, Rockfin tips, super raise, as some people call them, also greatly appreciated. Super chats, like a dem too. Also, Cash App, Venmo links in the description box. Okay. It's a nice day out. Spring has sprung. And it's kind of ideal weather right now in Los Angeles before it gets super hot. The U.S. the people in charge in the United States are really eager to have a war with China. They're so eager for it. Anyways, sorry, I'm a little bit. I'm just looking at a few things before I start the show, and I'm letting you all kind of get in here. My coffee maker is an AI, an AI coffee maker. The coolest kids are on Callin. Sure. We'll go with that. Cool kids are on Rockfin and also on Callin. All right. Well, let's talk about contrails. My God. My word. You know, there's a lot of people that are like, what are they doing up there? Yeah. But let's look at it from the, I guess, the regular old, the normie take on contrails is that there are things that come out of the back of airplanes just because the airplanes are up there flying around, right? The contrails left by airplanes last only hours, but do they only last hours? They are now so widespread that their warming effect is greater than that of all carbon dioxide emitted by airplanes that has accumulated in the atmosphere since the first flight of Wright brothers. Say what? So this is new evidence that the things that come out of the back of planes have some effect on the planet. And my guess is it has varying effects, just like the emission of sulfur and particles, right, in the very dirty burning of fossil fuel, coal, etc. There's a warming and there's a cooling, and you know that there's a warming and cooling. I'm just going to say though, a long time ago I read an article that is on a NASA website or U.S. Defense Department website that they understand that planes create contrails, and the contrails are long lasting, that they spread out, that they stay in the air and they spread out, and they also become clouds. They know this. They know this. They understand how they work. Contrails come out of planes and they become clouds. They know this. They know that they become clouds. And if you know that, well, then why wouldn't you, the idea that you would recreate that or wouldn't recreate that on purpose is, seems a little bit naive to me, but whatever. It turns out planes are even worse for the climate than we thought. The contrails, let me show you the article, I guess. What do you think? Should I show you the article? The contrails left by airplanes last only hours, but they are now so widespread that their warming effect is greater than that of all the carbon dioxide emitted by airplanes that has accumulated in the atmosphere since the first flight of the Wright brothers. Wow. I mean, that's quite a statement. Their warming effect is greater than that of all the carbon dioxide emitted by airplanes. Historically. Wow. Worse still. I mean, that's pretty major. That's a pretty major statement. I mean, if that doesn't just kind of take you aback a little bit, really? Worse still, this non-CO2 warming effect is set to triple by 2050, according to a study by Ulrich Burkhardt and Lisa Bach at the Institute of Atmospheric Physics in Germany. Altogether, flying is responsible for around 5% of global warming. I've said that I have skepticism around that number, but whatever. I'll take it at face value. Altogether, flying is responsible for around 5%. No meaningful actions are being taken to prevent this. Right. Well, you might, you don't want to suggest that maybe we stop flying airplanes, because that would just be, cockamamie. It might be, I don't know. Well, that's just silly. Why wouldn't we keep flying airplanes? And the discussions that are taking place focus almost entirely on the associated CO2 emissions. That's a problem if the non-CO2 effects are larger than the CO2 ones. The non-CO2 warming is the elephant in the room. Wow. Says Bill Hemmings of Transport and Environment. I mean, this is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. All aircraft that burn fuels leave behind a trail of exhaust fumes and soot. At high altitudes, water vapor often condenses on the soot particles, or high altitudes, or not so high altitudes sometimes, right? Sometimes those contrails are mighty low. Sorry, the sound changed there. Sometimes I wonder about that, And there's, people that insist that these contrails only happen like way up in the sky. I'm like, I don't know. They're kind of at lower cloud level sometimes. They don't seem that high up. So explain that one to me. I don't know. So here we go. Clouds can have, well, hold on. All aircraft so it freezes to form a what? A cirrus cloud that can persist for seconds to hours, depending on temperature and humidity. They are making clouds. I just said that. I just said that from before. They're making clouds. They know that they're making clouds. So if you know that you're making clouds with a contrail, well, and you know that these clouds have we're going to go to the next paragraph, a warming and a cooling effect. I mean, isn't so? I'm just going straight up with a connection here. In the same way, right? Like when they talk about SRM, solar radiation management, basically putting sulfur particles in the air that would that would block some radiation. I mean, that's exactly what the what the why am I just blanking out? Global dimming effect is, right? The global dimming effect is, we've put all this stuff in the air, and some of it actually has like a weight and mass and can actually block and actually act as a cooling agent along with all the warming agents. But what I'm saying is they're kind of recreating a volcano, right? So if you understand that clouds have a warming and a cooling effect, and you understand that you can actually make that happen out of the back of an airplane, well, why wouldn't you recreate that? And how easy could it be to recreate that without anyone ever paying attention to it, without anybody going, well, plenty of people pay attention, right? Lots of people go like, what the heck is going on? What the heck is right? There's lots of people out there that are like, what the heck is, I am one of those people. What the heck is going on? I mean, sometimes it is like, what? Sometimes it's just so appallingly obvious that you can't, I find people who try to dismiss the idea that they know, what's happening and they are, doing something. Like people that really go, full force on dismissing it, I'm like, okay. Because you just can't, your mind cannot possibly conceive of, the fact that somebody might be doing something that might be bad, under the guise of it being good. And right, somebody might be doing something not out in the open, right? Not transparent. Somebody might be doing something that's, a little undercover and see, whoa, no, they would never do that because anyways, we'll go on. Clouds can have both a cooling and a warming effect. They reflect some of the sun's rays back into space. Say what? They reflect some of the sun's rays back into space. Isn't that what SRM is? Isn't that what solar radiation management is? Isn't that what geoengineering is? I'm just saying. You don't, again, the idea that they're, well, we don't, the militaries of the world and the people in power, they all got together and said, no, we can't do this because it would be bad for their planet in the future, right? And like, we can't, we're all about transparency. Okay. Yep. All about transparency. Clouds can have both a cooling and a warming effect. They reflect some of the sun's rays back into space, but they also block some of the heat radiated by Earth's surface. On average, both thin natural cirrus clouds and contrails have a net warming effect. So it's good to know. I'm taking this at face value that it has a net warming effect, but you absolutely have to know that it's a shade. It's a shade. And you can see it happening. Like if the sun is shining and there's, if you live in a major city like LA and all of a sudden these, contrails come up and they kind of make these little cloud formations and the sun goes behind the clouds, you can feel that it gets cooler. You can feel it. You can see it. You can feel it. You can see the direct effect of these things, that it acts as like a little shade. Burkhart and her colleagues used a computer model of the atmosphere to estimate how much warming contrails caused in 2006, the latest year for which detailed air traffic inventory is available. I don't believe that for 1 second. Come on now. 2006. It took us 15 years to get detailed air traffic inventory. Okay, come on now. You keep that on a floppy disk? Is that, no? Okay. The model accounts not only for the change in air traffic volume, but also the location and altitude of flights, along with changing climate. Anyways. The team concludes that the warming effect of contrails will rise from 50 milliwatts per square meter of Earth's surface in 2006 to 160 milliwatts by 2050. But where are we now? I mean, that was a whole 15 years ago. Or am I doing my math right? No, it's more than 15 years ago, right? Almost 20 years ago. 17 years ago. Almost 20 years ago. What is it now? And do you have any available numbers? Do you have anything close to like an approximate number now? I wonder. Anyways. In comparison, the warming due to CO2 from aviation will rise from 24 to 84 milliwatts per square meter by this time. In a scenario, so we're going to call it double. It is double the warming. That's amazing. That is amazing. And yet nobody's saying like, well, you think we should stop flying these planes? I don't know. Anyways, but reducing contrail warming won't be easy. It's much harder than CO2, is it? There's absolutely no doubt that aviation CO2 needs to be addressed properly. Well, how are you going to address it? You actually have to address the thing that puts the CO2 into the air. How about the plane? How about, it's like, oh man, these planes, they're all up in the air and they're flying around. We got to figure out how to control the CO2 coming out of the plane. Well, hey, how about controlling the plane in the sky? Doctor, you're a scientist, right? Like the big brains are working on this one. Anyways, there are indeed large uncertainties whenever clouds are involved, said Burkhart. I think there's probably less uncertainties than they're willing to let on about that. But anyways, the study could be underestimating contrail warming by as much as 70%. Wow. The one bit of good news is that as contrails become more common, they reduce natural cirrus cloud formation by using up all the water. Why is that good news? This cuts the overall warming effect attributable to contrails by a fifth. They use up all the water available, so the natural cirrus clouds don't get to form. They don't get to form, but these unnatural cirrus clouds are being made. Oh, man. This is just... Whew. Anyways. That's pretty wild. Don't you think? I don't know. I think that's pretty wild. Well, let's stay with clouds. And we'll stay with Go Green for a minute. Let's stay up in them clouds. Earth could warm by 14 C. Oh my God. 14 C. Ain't nobody going to be around to see that. Get it? Earth could warm by 14 C as growing emissions destroy crucial clouds. More from New Scientist. Earth could warm by 14 C. If we keep burning fossil fuels with reckless abandon, And ain't nobody going to stop that anytime soon. If you've been paying attention. That means the world could warm by more than 14C above the pre-industrial level. I mean, that's just astronomical. I mean, but it does sound like something out of Sam Carana, out of the Arctic news blog, right? Hey, what's up, Joseph? Give me 1 second. We're going to take a call from Joseph in a moment, okay? Anyways, I'm going to finish this and then we'll take a call. Needless to say, this would be cataclysmic. For instance, large parts of the tropics would become too hot for warm-blooded animals, including us, to survive. I would say at 14C, it's going to be a little more than the tropics. You know, large parts of the tropics, which extend all the way to the poles. The tropics will extend all the way to the poles, and that will be too hot for mammals, and that will be pretty much everybody. So there's that. We're extinct at 3C, guys. Or 4C. I don't know if you want to, you know. We're extinct at 4C, probably functionally extinct at 3C. So 14C is something you can't even, like, really, there's no, it's hard to have a context for it. Anyways. The good news is that if countries step up their efforts to cut emissions, we should avoid finding out if this idea is correct. Really? I don't think we will get anywhere close to it, says Tapio Schneider. Old Tapio Schneider at the California Institute of Technology right here in Pasadena, who led the research. Sorry. It might be Tapio. Either way, that's a great name. Schneider's team modeled stratocumulus clouds over subtropical oceans, which cover around 7% of Earth's surface, and cool the planet by reflecting the sun's heat back into space. Cool the planet by reflecting the sun's heat back into space. Clouds. Cool the planet by reflecting the sun's heat back into space. If only we could make clouds. Huh. No, oh, really? We can? Shoot. Okay. Tell me more. They found there was a sudden transition when CO2 levels reached around 1,200 parts per million. The stratocumulus clouds broke up and disappeared. The reason why this finding applies only to subtropical stratocumulus is that these clouds are unusual. Cloud layer is maintained by the cloud tops, cooling as they emit infrared radiation. Joseph, this kind of actually dovetails a little into the other conversations we were having about infrared. Very high CO2 levels block this process. Wow. The loss of these bright white clouds would have a dramatic effect. Adding 8C to the global temperature. God dang it, that's game over. You might as well just sit down somewhere. No need to panic, though. Blah, blah, and then blah, blah, and then some more blah, blahs. All right. Just, yeah. Okay. We're going to take this call from Joseph. What's going on, Joseph?
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How about you? Long time no hear.
Yeah, got my own personal problems going on.
Hey, it's all good. Well, don't we all? No worries.
This is right out of I'm going to refer you back to Sabina's atmospheric and CO2 heating and cooling video, and she talks about this kind of thing, two-faced at the end and occasionally throughout it as well. But she explains that infrared is not what's coming in, it's microwave that's coming in. Mm-hmm. Infrared is what gets created in the interaction when it bounces back off the Earth. So what they're talking about is what degree is being shielded from being funneled to wherever it's going to go,
Right.
in whatever direction it's going to go, by whatever medium that's happening. It's not going to space. It's not like we're energizing lasers up there. When you add
Right.
water, you said it yourself that what's good about all the stuff soaking up water. Water has an enormous capacitance for heat,
Right.
and water's not going to space, and it's not staying hot high in the atmosphere. So is the water bringing the heat back down with it, like we talked,
Mm.
or is it throwing it out to space and then going back down to Earth on its own?
Right.
It's kind of kooky if you break it down to what they're saying. And I don't think they're stupid, and I'm not an atmospheric scientist. I don't, do that kind of research. But they're basing their conclusions on models, not observing where the heat is going. They just know it's not where they're looking at anymore, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Okay. Sure.
So if we let water evaporate and go up high and it cools as it goes up, where's that water going? It's condensing at some point.
Sure.
For the whole Earth, the water condenses at the points that are the coldest and have the greatest capacitance attached to them being cold. And you got mountains, ice caps, and glaciers, and then land masses and oceans to choose from. So clearly, if you're blocking bounced microwave energy by medium like clouds or contrails, right, it's absorbing that energy.
Sure.
They're saying that it's cooling because it's reflecting energy
Right. But it's still
from
well.
the
It's warm.
sun.
They're saying it's warming and it's cooling.
Right. So which again is the higher frequency energy, microwave or the rest of the stuff?
Right.
And it's always going to be microwave per
Yeah.
square inch. It's the same per square inches.
Yeah. I mean, on
So
the
their
yeah.
math is, yeah. Their conclusions bring you right back around to them having a solution, one way or another. Either it's chemical, physical, biological, whatever it is. It has to do with a solution bouncing stuff into space. And I'm saying, bald face, no way. No way. And I'm not the only one. I mean, there are others that will say that, but
Well,
it's very
yeah. I mean, well. Yeah. I mean, you're doubtful of the effectiveness of that, but I mean, if it can if it can do
absolutely.
it in a short term, that I mean, I think
It won't
these
go to
people are all
space,
short
though.
term. These people are all short term thinkers, right?
Right,
If you can
right.
cool
So
the,
if they can
that's why they're
maintain,
talking about SRM. That's why they're, sorry to make anybody mad. That's why they're already doing it with contrails. They're already doing that with
right,
clouds and contrails. It's already, they know absolutely all the effects and what it's doing, and that the feigning of like we don't know. Psh, no,
exactly. And as long as they can pour energy into doing what they're doing, it has the effect visually or statistically under wherever they're doing it to have some effect that they want and they
Yeah.
want you to believe in. And what I'm trying to really hold on to is these people are just as desperate as the rest of us. So they may really believe that they can figure this out and give themselves enough time to figure the next thing out and so on.
Yeah. I
But I
mean,
just
yeah. Yeah, I think
look at Venus.
they're doing it. I think they're already doing it, and they've already the whole like Mexican company tries out some solar radiation management in Mexico, right? Like they're doing these things. It's like, this company made meatballs out of mammoth DNA, or right? They're just going ahead with
Right.
this stuff. But
Willy-nilly.
willy nilly. But if the mammoth DNA thing, if you read that whole article, they're like, we've already been putting this in food. They said we've already been doing this, right? Like they let it out of the bag a little bit. They're like, we've already been putting this stuff in food. But
I
we're
did
just
not know
announcing it.
that.
We're announcing it as if it's a brand new thing. I'm like, Jesus, oh my God, right? And so same with the SRM stuff. They're doing it. They're little by little going like, hey, what? Hey, we just tried this thing out. Just letting you know, right? But in the fine print or at the bottom of the article, they're going to be like, well, these tests have been going on for quite a while. And they're getting little by little. They're going to acknowledge that, like, well, we've been, oh yeah,
Right.
we've been doing this for a while. Like sorry,
It,
we didn't let you know before, but it's been happening.
well, it's very convoluting and damaging because they're the authority, quote unquote, in the world. They, quote unquote, as well. And what they're saying, if you redo their numbers without so much assumption, it doubles and triples the problem and lessens the time by about the same ratio that you have.
Right.
And what it's certainly not helpful to where we're at as far as what we talk about doing on shows like yours. And I don't mean you yourself. I mean you euphemism people
Yeah.
like you and
W-
me. Yes.
yeah. Well, and let's just say for we're hypothetically, um, let's just say they have been they've been doing SRM for a while, in smaller or greater amounts or whatever. Just like global dimming. Well, if you stop all this, if you stop all the burning of the coal, if you stop all these emissions, we could be in trouble. And it's the same. I mean, it is the problem with SRM that they talk about all the time. Well, you know, if you start the SRM, you can't ever stop it. You won't ever be able to stop it because it'll actually.
Until the oceans bottom out on that particular type of
Right.
thermolytic pressure. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You'll
And
you'll
it's
just you'll get
doing that
yourself
now
into a
on so
loop
many
where
levels.
yeah. And so maybe we're already in that loop. Well, in the global in the conversation about global dimming, we're already in that loop, right? We can't stop. We can't just stop all emissions because that would be bad. We can't just stop all the contrails, right? That would be bad. So we can't stop all the SRM. That would be bad. That'll have
Okay,
that'll just exacerbate the effects already that we're trying to
can we switch
tamp
to a
down.
solution talk?
Oh,
Can we
I don't know.
turn this to a
Do you have a
solution?
solution? Sure.
You've read the Crystal Zedic stuff, yes?
Who? No.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
God, I can't use all that stuff. Um, I'm sorry then. Well, the terraced earth stuff connecting community to community, right? With ground loop cooling. You add Terence Tao's cooling reflective technology to that. If he's even half as efficient reflectively, energy wise, you can sequester tons of heat by building out these communities as you go. So as your global dimming reduces, which is literally funneling energy into the oceans, thermal mass pressure, as that reduces, you're weaning yourself off industry and sequestering some ratio of that energy yourself underground, where it will do less harm, if any.
Okay.
So that's my solution. Is it a solution that you can implement via industry? Not exactly. It's a lot of hands-on stuff because you don't want to use the industry that got you to the mess as much as possible. Does that make any sense? That
Kind
same
of.
system
Yeah.
also generates water.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of I vaguely understand what you're talking about, but I'm not. And maybe you explained it to me before, and I apologize if I didn't
It's okay.
hold
It's a
on to
large
everything. But
shift.
like I I kind of know what the general gist of what you're talking about, but I don't know the specifics about like the entire like system and
Well, it's
how it works out.
of course, but think of like an Earth ship that they have like in Arizona. Those self-supportive environment homes you can have built. There's communities of those, and then terrace up earth walls around them, whole segments like 3, 4, 5 houses at a time,
Okay. Right. Yeah. Right.
and
Yeah, I
go
remember you
crazy
talking
with
to
it.
me. Yeah. You're talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and underground that whole underneath all that are loops of water or whatever to both sequester heat and maintain a stable thermolytic environment, both water-wise, internal environment-wise, and you're catching heat while you're doing that on top of all this stuff, and you're condensing water, creating wetland runoff, and you have drinking and facility water from all this. And it's their technology. I'm just adding to their ideas with some larger scope stuff. And it would work to a degree. The more people that are doing it, and the more it generates wetlands and environment around it that's self-sustained, the more it cools the earth and generates biocomplexity and self-sustaining complex surface life for us
Okay.
or whoever.
Okay. Okay.
That's my solution. Is there another one? Not long term, no, because that's just a microcosm of what the Earth's trying to do anyway.
Right.
And I'm just trying to help that out rather than hinder it. The whole idea
Sure.
is not to push against the Earth and solar system systems that you can't change. And all human industrial systems push against that. The stuff that they're using as solution, and they're ignoring the ground effects, right? They're talking about aerosols and space and solar energy. They're not talking about industry supporting that. They're not talking about thermal mass. They're not talking about the oceans catching all that stuff. When they talk about water, like we talked about, that water is going into the oceans and land mass, not to space.
Right. Right.
Right. So the assumptions are kind of inside out and crazy, just like the political windows. You know, they're all cattywampus.
Sure. Sure.
You're the same voice in many of our worlds in the media world. You know, we camp is semi-sane in climate, not really, semi, right? So here's the same whole lot of stuff, but tell Lee Camp that we're going to have Ocean 12 1,000 feet higher for years. Where's he going to go with it?
Well, say that last part again. Tell him what?
Tell Lee Camp there's Ocean 12's coming in 50, 60, 70 years, you know? Where is he going to go with that with his audience, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Your audience
yeah.
is very special.
Oh, yes. And, you know, right. I mean, that's the thing is I think, you know, you know, climate change is not a sexy subject, has never really been. And it gets even less sexy the more the more truth you actually tell about it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you can cover it. You can make it like a special interest. You know, kind of like isn't that scientifically interesting, right? You can make it or that is concerning. Climate change is certainly concerning, and I do care about the planet, right? Like these kind of surface level. You can hit these surface level emotions by covering. Oh, it could be bad in the future. We better do something, but that's about as far as it gets. And I was just talking to somebody, this morning about, or I don't know, just recently about, people who are aware of climate change but can't even actually wrap their minds around, what it would require to actually live in a different way, like extricating yourself from the current paradigm in order to actually truly be awake to the problem, right? And so it's like that's a leap that most people are not willing to make. And even on the understanding level, there people here understand it, and that's great. I mean, because we all have somebody to talk to about this. And there's a few, we're all called, doomers or crazies or whatever, or on some level conspiracy theorists. Michael Mann,
right,
calls us conspiracy theorists or domestic terrorists or whatever you want to call it. Like, we're nuts, to a lot of people because nobody wants to hear this. This conversation is too heavy for people, but the more you have the conversation, the more it can enter the common dialogue, and that's hopefully what people are getting from this. Hopefully people don't
Kevin,
like slam on in here.
People
don't slam on in here and go, "Fuck this shit, I'm out of here." Like, "Oh, this is crazy." Maybe some people come and listen. I don't know. What were you going to say?
They seem to. I debate whether to. I was just going to say that what you just said is why I debate with myself before calling in. Number one, I don't like dominating your show, but I keep saying the same basic things. But what you just said is true. If I keep saying it better and better or different here and there, same as you, maybe someone will hear it, and it'll help. I don't know.
I mean, in the same way that other conspiracies are real. Like there are actually people conspiring to F you over. Right? The people in power are conspiring to get more power and more money and take it all from you. That's not a conspiracy. That's just how it fucking how it has worked through history, which is so it's like, people who call people conspiracy theorists are actually just dopes who don't know anything about anything. Who went to school and learned nothing, right? Like, because if you have any modicum of historical understanding, you understand that the history of human beings is powerful people fucking over people with no power. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been. And it's like, and we're still here. Hey, but like slowly people are waking up on a mass level of like, oh shit, I can really see what's going on, and now it's become, ever more mainstream for people to expose, at the very least, expose what people are doing. Hey, look at these guys. These guys over here are just complete corrupt, criminals running the show. Like maybe we should do something about that, right? I mean, so, and same with climate change, right? Eventually, people will go. Eventually, when enough weird, I see that people are beginning to get it. People who might have been skeptical about climate change in the past, people are slowly kind of going, things are not right anymore, right? The loss of insects, the frequency of crazy weather events, the changing of the seasons, right? People all over the place are starting to go, yep, something is definitely different, right? And so as people wake up to that, and it becomes just more of a common, it's part of a common lexicon. People are understanding what's going on. I mean, maybe we can get to a place where people are like, all right, well, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we're going too slow for that, right? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe we're moving too slow on that level.
It's not pretty. Either way,
it's not.
I appreciate you being there, and I'm going to let whoever wants to. I think William's in there. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for calling in, man.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Let's hear from William. How you doing, William? You there?
Hang on, my friend. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Check.
Yep, I can hear you.
Hello? Oh, you can? Okay. Joseph, where'd you go? Stay. I have questions.
Oh, I think he was bowing out to let you call in.
I know. Maybe we could do, if we can sometime in the future, it'd be great if it's okay with you if we all three could kind of do a talk.
It's not too hard. It's not too hard to have everybody going.
Yeah. Thank you, Joseph, for sharing what you did. It stretches my brain, I have to say. I'm still dealing with people that I talk to. I don't know about you, brother, Kevin, where they're like, there's a NASA report out. The Earth is greening. Have you heard that one?
Oh, no, I haven't. Is there?
I think there is, actually. I think it depends on how you interpret it. Some people suggest that the greening is due to better forest management, which I don't know.
Maybe.
We're doing less clear cutting. But check it out. A couple of people have, I do a little calling. I only get one or two people here and there, and a couple of people have called in with that one, and I'm like, due to CO2, like higher CO2 levels. So now we're getting more foliage because the plants love CO2. They're too for it. It's good for the planet.
Plant food.
You know what I mean? This is a train of logic.
Sure.
And I just like, well, I guess it depends on whether you look at forest management as maybe being why we're having, if we're having a greening, I don't know, but
Right.
so the reason I brought it up is to check in with you if you heard about it, get any feedback from you. But
I mean, I'm looking at it, although I mean, there's two conflicting stories or narratives, if you will. There's the deforestation story. That you have to take it face value, but you can be skeptical. And then there's the Earth is greening due to it's not necessarily due to CO2. It says because of ambitious tree planting projects and intensive agriculture, mainly in China and India. That's what I'm reading this article right here.
That's what you're reading, right?
Yep.
Well, they were citing a NASA report,
That's what this is. It's a NASA report from 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I don't know where they're getting this interpretation, but it's happened twice with people who adamant that there's no anthropological changes. It's all cycles, And I'm not an expert. Like when I listen to you and Joseph talk, I'm like, I'm all ears. You know what I mean? Because you guys understand this whole thing much better than me, But anyway, so just go ahead.
If the Earth is getting, so it's hard. That's the thing. It's hard to know. I mean, sure. That would be good news if the Earth is greening, but it's interesting because you also have massive deforestation, and you have other forests losing their cover. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we're getting better at protecting the planet. I don't, and that would be good. That's a step in a positive direction. Sure.
Yeah, even if that's the case, I don't think the forest is greening because there's higher CO2. Therefore,
that's not what they're saying. It's too, but maybe it could be helpful. It could couldn't necessarily be bad, but there are other things going on. So it's this is one thing that you can point to that goes that says, yeah, well, if climate is so bad, why is the Earth getting greener? Blah blah blah. But I think
there's a lot of nuance in there, and obviously there's a lot going on here. We can picking out one thing like that and then theretofore is selective. It doesn't. Go ahead.
Right. Well, it's like saying Antarctic sea ice extent is growing over the last couple of years or whatever, but that's extent, not necessarily mass, right, or volume. Right. It's a different thing, and you can have extent growing, but you still have these, massive glaciers breaking off of Antarctica, and contributing to eventually sea level rise. So it's there are many things going on. It's a complex problem, and it's it's a complex system. So that's if you want to, I suppose, to the people who want to debate climate change, that's fine. But it's fine. Bring some science to the table. That's the way it's done. You bring some scientific things to the table. But like saying like one particular thing might, that it's all over. That's it. Climate change. It's kind of like saying, well, we have triple the snowpack we did, in California. So therefore, what climate change or droughts all over? You can't really say stuff like that. That's just a very simplistic way to look at it.
You're singing to the choir. I totally hear you.
Yeah. And so it's but anyways, I mean, maybe that's great if people are planting trees and greening the planet. I mean, that's gotta help. Every little bit, I suppose, helps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I was hoping to, pardon me, I'll talk to you and Joseph about in the future real quick is the harp and how angels don't play this harp. Have you heard of that book? I haven't read it, but I just
really?
saw a review on it.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's let's see. Gee, I'd have to open the link. I put it in your live chat. Angels don't play. It's obviously it's about um, the high frequency active aurora research project, and fellow. I guess it's a pretty popular book amongst people who are aware of weather warfare, from what I understand. And it's not a recent publication, but I had somebody refer me to it. I was just going to see if you had heard anything about it, but
I haven't.
maybe
Yeah. Well,
something
I see this article is from 2012, so it's.
yeah.
I mean, I find these things interesting. So,
Yeah.
I do like to like check these things out and look into them and see, and see if there's any veracity to what is being said or what, I mean, again, the Department of Defense, the DARPA, the armed forces, to assume that they're not doing anything like too kooky out there, like, is a little bit naive, right? Like, these are the people that made up MK Ultra and are still doing MK Ultra on, right? Like, they didn't like one day go like, oh, you got us, yeah, all right, we'll stop, okay, like, they didn't stop that. They just moved to another. It's like Operation Mockingbird is not. They didn't like go, oh, okay, you got us, we'll stop. No, now they just. Now the people that give you the news are the actual CIA, people who are in the CIA, right, or were in the CIA or trained by the CIA, right? Like, we stopped feeding you. We stopped feeding the journalists the stories. We just made the journalists, we just went straight to the source, right? We just made the operative the journalist, right? Like, so it's just they just got better at it. So it's just, the idea that the Department of Defense or weather warfare or blah blah blah, all that stuff is something that they one day a while ago they decided, like, yeah, it's not really cool, we'll stop, because that wouldn't be good. Like, okay, okay, right? No, they're still figuring it out, and they're still working on it, they're still doing stuff, and and so the idea that like HARP has been somewhat influential, or they've experimented plenty with it. I don't doubt it at all, and I'm interested about it. I'm still not like, oh, they turned on the HARP machine and made all the weather bad. I'm not necessarily sold on that. I'm not sold on that. If somebody wants to send me some information on it, I am all ears. Like, I love more information.
Yeah, well, just to comment on what you said, the book is written by a Dr. Nick Begich, it looks like. Presents a compelling discussion of one of the important military advances of the United States government. And technology is designed to manipulate the environment in a number of ways that can jam all global communication, disrupt weather systems, interfere with migration patterns, disrupt human mental process. Anyway, it goes on and on. So it seems like obviously it's that, like you said, I'm sure the government has technology that is hundreds of years ahead of what they make us aware.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, only who knows? That's the thing. They keep it behind a veil. They let a little bit out. We hear a little bit, and they keep us dangling. Because they're not gonna pull back the veil and go, yeah, here's all the secret DARPA projects we're working on.
Right.
Advanced technology.
Sure.
So that's where it's kind of a mind bend. You know what I mean? You kind of like, you can dig into it a bit, and it's like, how do you get confirmation? And there's even the speculation that HARP can be focused to hit it's not fissures. Well, fissures in the earth or tectonic plates or something where you maybe can.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I've heard all that stuff too. I don't know. I'm just. It's like, and I won't. I don't know, but that doesn't. Make me go, well, that's preposterous. It's
No, it doesn't.
You know, I don't know is a fine place to be. Is actually
Right.
a better place to be than like, no, absolutely not. Right? Like that's that is farther away from, you know, seeking the truth, being in that position than, you know, I don't know, you know, maybe not. That's a that's an okay place to rest. And that's where I'm at with it. I don't know. It's all very interesting, and I certainly open to more information about it. And I used to watch. I think I actually used to cover some of his stuff. Is it Jim Lee? Am I getting that right, guys in the chat? In the chats, I think it's Jim Lee. This guy who was in like South Carolina or something. This is a few years ago. Used to do a lot of investigation into like HAARP and weather modification stuff. It was interesting stuff. There were some holes here and there in what he was in his coverage, and he was kind of like, he actually wasn't he wasn't, you know, he actually was accepting of the theory of climate change on some levels. He's, you know, but he, you know, he didn't completely negate it, and he wasn't like he wasn't saying that like, oh well, it's just, you know, they're just controlling the weather and that's all it is. He you know, whatever. But who knows? I'm just the only thing that I can really go on is, you know, to go back to the beginning of the video, is that what I can witness with my own eyes and on my own observations certainly sometimes looks a little hinky, right? That's all I can say. It looks a little hinky, but you know, I have to take, you know, you know, all the data and all the information in as a whole, right? And kind of like, you know, do my own investigation or my own collating, if you will, and like put things together and kind of like try to understand like the bigger map of what's going on. But I don't know. I don't know myself. But thank you for saying this to me. I'm going to read this article. I'll check it out.
Yeah, well, if I can make a final comment, if you don't mind. Obviously, it's perfectly plausible that all these things are going on at the same time.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And how they work together or don't, or who's trying to manipulate what, you know, it wouldn't just be the U.S. government, now would it? You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so.
Right.
And I don't know. But good conversation. It's something that I'm trying to learn more about. That's why I often refer to as like Meathead's Corner, because I'm just a layperson, ex-construction worker guy trying to figure out, now in my retirement, to unlearn all the crap I learned in front of the boob tube and in high school, and you know what I mean, and figure out what is really going on. I know.
Of course, aren't we all? Yeah, I mean, we're all just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But
Amen.
Thanks for calling in, William. I appreciate it. I got to wrap up the show here.
Sure.
But thanks for hanging out, guys. I know sometimes thanks for having open minds and being willing to entertain conversations about all kinds of things. You know, at the very least, you know, conversations about strange things can be fun, right? It's okay to entertain ideas that, like, you know, you don't even have to believe the idea you're entertaining. It's okay to entertain weird ideas, right? Like, it's totally fine. Like, anyways, whatever. I mean, you may or may not believe that aliens exist, but it's certainly an interesting conversation. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Again, you all know how to support the show. buymeacoffee.com/BlackBearNews. And all the links in the description box. Thanks for hanging out. I will be back tomorrow at the same time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And until next time, peace.